नमस्कार और गंगा एजुकेशन में आपका पुनः स्वागत है। इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर आपको विधिक क्षेत्र से संबंधित महत्वपूर्ण विषयों पर व्याख्यान, विधि से जुड़े हुए प्रतियोगी परीक्षाओं की तैयारी, महत्वपूर्ण कानूनी तथ्य तथा विधिक इतिहास से संबंधित सामग्री सरल और व्यवस्थित रूप में उपलब्ध होगी।
आज के इस वीडियो में एक और इंटरेस्टिंग केस लेके आई हूँ मैं, दगड़ू वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, दैट इज रिगार्डिंग वॉलंटरी कन्फेशन।
आज हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट केस जो जुडिशरी एग्जाम्स और लॉ स्टूडेंट्स के लिए एक्सट्रीमली रेलेवेंट है। Dagadu versus State of Maharashtra. Welcome to Ganga Education. Now this case is a story of a criminal conspiracy, but the motive behind it is so bizarre and frankly so horrifying that it'll really make you think.
So, our story takes place in Manwood village in Maharashtra, where between 1972 and 1974, 10 innocent girls and women were brutally murdered. And the motive behind these murders? Just one thing: superstition. A belief so dark it put humanity to shame. This isn't just a crime story, you know. It's a chilling example of legal complexities and, well, the dark side of human psychology.
Okay, so let's dive right into the details. To really get a grip on this case, we're going to explore these 5 key areas. We'll look at why these human sacrifices even happened in Manwat, what the prosecution's biggest piece of evidence was, what the law actually says about accomplice evidence, why the confessions were thrown out, and finally, what the Supreme Court's final decision was.
So who is behind this whole conspiracy? Well, the main conspirators were accused number 1, a woman named Rukmini, and accused number 2, Utimrao. Now, both had very different motives. Rukmini, she wanted a child, and Utimrao, who was actually the president of the Manwat municipality at the time, he believed a huge treasure was buried inside his house.
So the central point of their entire plan was a pipal tree in their house, where it was believed that a spirit named Munjaba lived. Some quacks advised them that if they sacrificed virgin girls and offered their blood to Munjaba, all their wishes would come true. And it was this blind superstition that started this whole series of gruesome murders.
Now, what's really terrifying here is the pattern. One after another, from November 1972 to January 1974, a total of 10 murders took place. The victims were mostly young girls. They were lured away, they were strangled, and blood was extracted from their private parts. It was a chain of extreme brutality that spread terror throughout the entire area.
Now, in a case this big, you'd think there was a ton of evidence, right? Well, the police had no direct evidence or any eyewitnesses, so the prosecution's entire case rested on the testimony of an accomplice. Now, what's an accomplice? It's someone who was involved in the crime themselves, but later became a government witness, or what we call an approver. They were given a pardon on the condition that they would tell the whole truth. This was the prosecution's biggest gamble.
And the star witness in this case was a man named Shankar, who was actually a servant of accused number 2. He confessed in court that he, along with accused number 3, committed the first 4 murders. And he clearly stated that these murders were done on the orders of accused number 1 and 2. This confession from Shankar became the prosecution's most powerful weapon.
And right here, the case reaches its biggest legal question: the reliability of accomplice evidence. I mean, think about it. Can you really trust the testimony of a man who is a self-confessed murderer and is testifying only to save his own skin? This question is the legal heart of this entire case.
This is where we find a fascinating legal puzzle in the Indian Evidence Act. On one hand, you have Section 133, which says an accomplice is a competent witness, and it's not illegal to convict someone based on their testimony alone, even if there's no other supporting evidence. But then, on the other hand, you have Section 114, Illustration B, which says the court can presume that an accomplice is not worthy of credit unless their story is corroborated by independent evidence. So, which one should the court follow?
So what's the crucial point? The courts have solved this conflict using something called the rule of prudence. And listen up, this is very important for your exams. The rule of prudence basically says this: while it's not illegal to convict someone on the sole testimony of an accomplice, it is very, very unsafe. So, it has become a rule of practice that courts should not convict unless the accomplice's testimony is backed up or corroborated by some independent evidence. And it's precisely because of this rule of prudence that accused 1 and 2, the main conspirators, they walked free. Why? Because there was absolutely no independent evidence to support the accusations made by the approver, Shankar. There was no proof of a conspiracy, no bloodstains were found near the peepal tree, and there wasn't even any sign of digging for the supposed treasure.
and that's why the Supreme Court upheld their acquittal.
All right, so the prosecution's case had a second pillar, the confessions of some of the accused, which were recorded before a magistrate. But very quickly, this pillar also came crashing down. Let's see how.
The magistrate who recorded the confessions, well, he simply didn't follow the mandatory procedures under Section 164 of the CRPC. He never asked the accused if the confession was voluntary. He also didn't bother to find out if there was any police pressure or torture involved. He didn't even record how many days the accused had been in police custody. And the biggest mistake? He completely missed writing the mandatory memorandum under Section 164, where he had to state that he believes the confession was being given voluntarily.
So, what was the result of all this? The Supreme Court stated very clearly that because of these procedural flaws, no reliance whatsoever could be placed on any of the confessions, especially since they were later retracted. As evidence, they were completely worthless. So, let's recap. The main conspirators had been acquitted, and the confessions were thrown out. The case was now left only against those accused where the approver's testimony was actually backed up by corroborating evidence. The Supreme Court's final verdict was based entirely on this principle of corroboration.
So let's take a look at the final verdict. Accused 1 and 2 were acquitted due to the lack of corroboration. Accused number 3, against whom a bloodstained shirt was found as proof, was given the death sentence for the first 4 murders. Accused 9, 10, and 11, whose involvement was corroborated by an eyewitness and the recovery of weapons, were also given the death sentence. However, accused 12, against whom the evidence was weak, was given the benefit of the doubt and was acquitted.
This case teaches us just how crucial corroboration is in our criminal justice system, especially when the testimony is coming from an accomplice. It also highlights the importance of following procedural safeguards. But I want to ask you a question. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? In today's time, with forensic advancements like DNA, would the decision in this case have been different? If you found this legal explainer helpful, please do like, share, and subscribe to Ganga Education, and make sure you press the bell icon so you get notifications for all our upcoming important case breakdowns.
इस सत्र को देखने के लिए धन्यवाद। यदि यह व्याख्यान आपको उपयोगी लगा है तो कृपया लाइक, शेयर और गंगा एजुकेशन को सब्सक्राइब करें और आगे भी ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण विधि व्याख्यानों के लिए जुड़े रहें।